One fight on Freedom 250 is being completely overlooked, and somehow it might end up stealing the entire show. That's the crazy thing about this card. Everyone's talking about Ilia Topuria. Everyone's talking about Alex Pereira. Everyone's talking about the White House setting. But not every matchup carries the same level of intrigue. Some fights feel like showcase bouts. Others feel like genuine 50-50 wars. So today, we're ranking every major Freedom 250 matchup from worst to best. Not based on star power, not based on betting odds, based on pure fight intrigue. And by the end, I think you'll understand why the #1 spot wasn't even a difficult choice. Let's start at the bottom. Coming in last is Sean O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi. Now, before O'Malley fans get angry, hear me out. This isn't a bad fight. It's just the least compelling matchup on a loaded card. O'Malley is a former champion, a massive star, one of the most creative strikers in MMA. But stylistically, this feels like a showcase. Zahabi enters on a solid winning streak, but most fans expect O'Malley to control the range and dictate the pace. Could Zahabi shock the world? Sure. But compared to the rest of this card, the upset potential feels limited, and that's why it lands at the bottom. But the next fight has one huge question attached to it. Can experience overcome youth? That's Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Ruffy. This matchup is fascinating because it feels like a passing of the torch fight. Chandler has fought everybody. Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. His resume is ridiculous. But Mauricio Ruffy might be one of the fastest rising prospects in the sport. His striking is explosive, his confidence is obvious, and his finishing ability has UFC fans paying attention. The concern? We've never seen Ruffy tested by someone with Chandler's pressure and experience. This fight could look brilliant, or it could become one-sided quickly. Either way, somebody's stock is changing dramatically afterward. What if Freedom 250 becomes the night a future champion announces himself? That brings us to Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. This fight feels violent. Lopes has become one of the UFC's most entertaining featherweights. His pace is relentless. His aggression never stops, and somehow every fight feels chaotic. Steve Garcia isn't exactly known for taking backward steps either. The guy hunts finishes. That creates the perfect recipe for fireworks. Unlike some technical chess matches, this one feels guaranteed to produce action. The reason it doesn't rank higher? The stakes aren't quite as massive as the fights ahead. But if we're talking pure entertainment value, this could easily crack the top 3 afterward. And speaking of high stakes, let's talk about Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. This is where the rankings get difficult. Because from a historical standpoint, this fight is enormous. A former middleweight champion attempting to capture interim heavyweight gold. That's crazy. And stylistically, it's fascinating. Pereira carries nuclear power. Gane possesses some of the best movement ever seen at heavyweight. One mistake from Gane and Pereira could end the fight instantly. One smart game plan from Gane and Pereira could spend 25 minutes chasing shadows. The uncertainty is what makes this matchup so compelling. Nobody truly knows how Pereira's power translates against an elite heavyweight mover. And nobody knows whether Gane can avoid danger for 5 rounds. But what if the best fight on the card doesn't involve a title shot? Because our runner-up is Justin Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria. Yes, runner-up. And honestly, that surprised me too. Topuria enters undefeated. Gaethje enters dangerous. That's a terrifying combination. Topuria has looked nearly flawless recently. Elite boxing, elite grappling, elite confidence. Meanwhile, Gaethje remains one of the most violent fighters the sport has ever produced. Every time he fights, chaos follows. Every single time. This matchup has superstar implications. If Topuria wins, he moves closer to becoming one of the faces of the UFC. If Gaethje wins, he reminds everyone why he's still one of the most feared lightweights alive. The reason it doesn't take the top spot? Because one fight combines elite skill, historical significance, and complete unpredictability. And that fight is #1, Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. Yes, it's #1. And here's why. The matchup asks questions nobody can confidently answer. Can Pereira become a legitimate heavyweight champion? Can Gane finally silence critics questioning his championship mentality? Can a former middleweight truly knock out one of the division's most athletic heavyweights? Every outcome feels believable. Pereira by knockout, Gane by decision, late round drama, heavyweight chaos. Everything is on the table. And unlike some championship fights where fans strongly lean one direction, this one feels genuinely uncertain. Those are usually the best fights. the ones where nobody knows what's coming. And isn't that exactly why we watch MMA? Because certainty is boring, chaos is unforgettable. So let's settle the rankings. At the bottom, O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi, then Chandler versus Mauricio Ruffy, then Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia, then Topuria versus Justin Gaethje, and at number 1, Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. Not because it's the biggest fight, not because it's the most important fight, because it's the fight with the most unanswered questions. And unanswered questions create unforgettable nights. Freedom 250 already looks historic. But when the cage door closes, one matchup is going to separate itself from the rest. My pick is Pereira versus Gane, the most intriguing fight, the most unpredictable fight, and potentially the best fight on the entire card. Now I want your ranking. Which Freedom 250 matchup deserves the number 1 spot, and which fight are fans sleeping on?